The plague has been terrorizing Rella, my home, along with the rest of Spain, and even the rest of Europe, for a long time. We don't know how it was started or why it is killing so many people, nor do we know how to stop it. Daddy said that the Jews gave it to us because it isn't hurting any of them. When I asked him why they wanted to hurt us, he just told me I was too young to understand. But I'm 9 years old, but almost 10. He always acted like I was a baby. He called me his little daffodil, but my name is Carmen. I sighed and sat down on the little bench in my garden. I missed my father. It had only been 3 months since he had fallen victim to the Black Death. Although we kept to ourselves in our estate to avoid the sickness, my father still became ill and died shortly after. My mother blamed the servants and sent them all away. It is just her and I now, along with my uncle and a few maids to help out around the house, though they aren't allowed to leave, for they might bring the sickness back with them. My mother, however, was still scared one of them would give me the sickness, so she had quarantined me to my room. The only other place I was allowed to go was my little garden outside the doors of my bedroom. I came out every day and tended to the little yellow flowers that grew there. There was a little pond and a bench underneath a willow tree, but my favorite part of the garden was a small sundial that was placed in the very center. It had been a gift from my father from when he had first started to get sick. Around the rim was an engraved message. I walked over and traced my words around the fingers. I will love you until the day the sun stops shining. I smiled to myself in the memory of my father. My life revolved around this little sundial. I run out of things to do in my confined space. I've fallen into a specific schedule in which I do everything in a specific order at a specific time. If I do not keep myself busy, I become bored and let my mind wander, which usually leads to me thinking of sad things like my father. Just then, I heard my mother calling to me from my bedroom. I sighed and walked towards her, leaving my garden behind. "Yes, Mother?" I asked, sitting at a small chair near the window. "The town is organizing a march to get rid of the sickness brought to us by the Jews. They will march throughout the town holding the statue of the Virgin Mary. If it works, we will be free to live our lives again," she said with excitement. "I hope they succeed," I replied. Sure enough, the next day I heard a cheering coming from the town. I ran out to my garden to see if I might catch a glimpse of the spectacle. The people were crowded into mobs, cheering and waving at the men who carried the statue throughout the streets. They wound their way around until they were out of sight. It was like a heavy fog had lifted off the land. The depression was now flecked with a hope for a better future approaching quickly. After the parade, it was as if the plague had vanished entirely, not only in our hearts and our minds, but no one else became ill. The Virgin Mary had saved us all. If only she had been able to save my father. I wandered back out to my garden and traced my fingers over the letters engraved in the sundial and looked around me. The sun was shining off the yellow flowers that covered my garden. I could feel that my father was watching over his little daffodil once again.